Okay, so we're diving deep today into something pretty controversial.
Yeah.
It's ICE operations.
Mm.
And this whole debate swirling around sanctuary cities. And we've got some breaking news from Tom Homan,
Okay.
former acting director of ICE.
Right.
This is going to be a fascinating deep dive.
Absolutely. And I think it's something that everyone's talking about right now. So it's important to unpack this and understand the different sides and what's really going on.
For sure. So the big headline here,
Yeah.
ICE has arrested 1,300 people
Wow.
in recent operations.
Okay. So just to give some context for our listeners, Tom Homan,
Yeah.
he's not just some random person commenting on this. He was actually the acting director of ICE. So when he speaks about this, people listen. He's got experience in this area.
Yeah, no, he definitely knows what he's talking about. So 1,300 arrests, a big number.
Yeah.
But he breaks it down and he says over 1,000 of these people were criminals.
Right.
But he also throws out these two other categories. Fugitives, who have been through immigration court already, and collaterals.
Okay.
Now, collaterals, that's the word that really gets me.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people are wondering about.
Yeah. What are those and why are they being swept up in these operations?
So let's start with fugitives.
Okay.
In this context, we're talking about someone who has gone through immigration court.
Yeah.
They've received a removal order, but then they've disappeared instead of, complying with that order.
So they're basically trying to dodge deportation.
Exactly. They're trying to stay under the radar.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so fugitives, we kind of get that. Now, what about collaterals?
Okay, so collaterals, this is where it gets a little bit more controversial.
Okay.
Homan is using this term to describe people who are basically caught up in these ICE operations because they happen to be in a sanctuary city.
So this is where the whole sanctuary city debate comes into play.
Exactly.
Remind us, what exactly is a sanctuary city?
A sanctuary city, it's essentially a jurisdiction that has policies in place to limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement.
Okay.
So that might mean refusing to hold someone in jail just because ICE asks them to, or it might mean restricting local police from asking about someone's immigration status.
Gotcha.
It varies, but the general idea is that they're trying to protect undocumented immigrants from being, swept up by federal authorities.
Okay, so if a city says, hey, we're not going to play ball with IC, how does that lead to these collateral arrests, according to Homan?
Right. So Homan's argument is that because sanctuary cities are making it more difficult for IC to, do their job, they're being forced to go into communities to make arrests.
Right.
And when they do that, he says it increases the likelihood that they're going to arrest people who weren't even their original targets.
So they're casting a wider net.
Exactly. It's like a dragnet, and you never know who's going to get caught in it.
And he says, no one's off the table.
Yeah.
That's a pretty strong statement.
Very strong statement. And I think it really reflects this current administration's focus on immigration enforcement.
Yeah, definitely taking a hard line.
Yeah.
And Homan specifically says that their priority is public safety threats.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean in practice? How's that actually shaping what ICE is doing?
So when they talk about public safety threats, they're primarily talking about individuals with criminal records, particularly those who pose a risk to the community.
Okay, so they're focused on the people who they deem to be dangerous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're trying to prioritize the biggest threats to public safety.
But here's the thing. Homan's arguing that sanctuary city policies, which are meant to keep some people safe, actually make communities less safe overall.
Yeah.
Isn't that a contradiction?
It's definitely a point of contention.
All right.
You have sanctuary city advocates who say that these policies are essential for protecting undocumented immigrants who are otherwise law-abiding, contributing members of society. They don't want to see them caught up in these enforcement actions. On the other hand, you have Homan's argument that by not cooperating with ICE, sanctuary cities are forcing them to take a more aggressive approach.
Okay.
Which could ultimately put more people at risk.
So it's really a clash of philosophies here.
Absolutely. A very fundamental disagreement about the role of local government in immigration enforcement.
And Homan ends by saying he hopes these cities will reconsider their stance and start working with ICE.
Yeah.
Realistically, do you see that happening?
It's hard to say. Both sides have very deeply held beliefs on this issue.
Yeah.
And the political climate is incredibly polarized.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult to find common ground.
Yeah, it seems like a long shot.
It is, but it's a question we need to keep asking.
So what can our listeners do? What should they be thinking about?
Well, I think this issue really forces us to grapple with some fundamental questions
Yeah.
about how we balance the enforcement of laws
Right.
with the protection of individual rights and community safety.
It's not an easy balance.
Not at all.
And it's definitely a conversation that's not going away anytime soon.
Definitely not.
So I encourage everyone listening, keep digging deeper into this issue. Examine the different perspectives and form your own informed opinions.
Absolutely, because this is something that affects all of us in one way or another.
It really does. Thanks for breaking all this down.
Of course.
We'll be back with another deep dive soon.
Looking forward to it.